everybody and welcome. This is not going to be one of my standard videos because, as I said, the mod review thing I was doing for Fallout 4 is, well, over. So, this week I'm going to be doing something different. It's going to be a comparison of two different franchises that are similar but also quite different. If you want further episodes of these, let me know in the comment section as to what franchises you would like to see compared to each other. But for this week, it's going to be .hack and it's going to be Sword Art Online. And if you're wondering, but this is a gaming channel, why are you doing something on non-gaming stuff? Well, that's because .hack has games, and they're both about an MMORPG. So, yeah. Also, Sword Art actually does have a game in development. So, I thought, why not? Now, how it's going to work out is, I'm going to go over what they have in what their similar points are, and then I'm going to go into their individual stories, their characters, and their character development. And since both of them are about an MMORPG, I would pretty much go over which one I would like to play the most, and why? Well, how and why, I should say. So, now that we have that kind of architecture established for this episode, we can proceed. And for what their both comparisons are, or what they both have the same, they're both about an MMORPG that doesn't go so well, I guess you could say. Or rather, crazy crap happens. Yeah, let's just go with crazy crap happens. Now, the difference between the two of them for the crazy crap is Sword Art is all the people in the game are stuck in the game playing a death game. Whereas in .hack, they are, well, slowly learning that stuff is happening. What I mean by that is each individual segment of the story contributes more to the overall story. So, yeah, let's just go with that. And the last thing that they both compared, the heroes of the story have to defeat something bigger than themselves. So, that's basically the comparisons that they both have. Since .hack is older, I'm going to go over .hack's story first, and it is actually pretty long, so I am going to do a cut down version, and I will only be covering the World 1. What I mean by the World 1, if you're not familiar with that, the original 4 games, at least 2 of the novels, the first anime and the graphic novel called Legend of the Twilight, all exist in the World 1, or just the world. Whereas .hack Roots and GU takes place in the world R2. Further series also takes place in the world R2, the world X, and so on and so forth. They are different versions of the world that are released and are like an updated version of the original archetype of the world. So, that being said, as I said, I will only be covering the first version of the world. So basically it's from AI Busters to Legend of the Twilight. And I will try to not drag it out with the story. So pretty much what's going on with the story for .hack is the world itself has its own kind of sentient god that exists within the game. And it's coming to the end of its life because the new god Aura is about to be, well, created, I guess you could say. And the old god does not want that to happen. I'm saying god as a loose thing. It's actually an AI. So basically, the AI known as Morgana Morgan is trying to stop the birth of Aura, whereas the characters in the story are trying to help Aura be created, I guess. The various AIs also that are being created and deleted by the system administrators are also contributing to the birth of Aura. And Morgana tells the system administrators through player accounts uh, where the AIs are to try to slow the progress of Aura down and inevitably try to delete Aura through the character of Tsukasa. When Tsukasa awakens Aura, however, it starts the Twilight incident in which uh, characters like Kite and Black Rose have to, well, work their way through the whole incident with the help of the system administrators and hackers to progress along and the birth of Aura. After Aura is born, she takes over as the new system or the new AI in charge of the system and the internet. So, with Aura now in place, it has like a time jump of about 4 years. Everything's a lot better, everything runs a lot smoother, there's no issues. And then we move into Legend of the Twilight, in which a contest is being held by supposedly CC Corp in order to win the legendary .hacker avatars, and a pair of twins wins that, named Shugo and Reina. And then they start playing as the legendary .hackers Kite and Black Rose, to the point where they stumble across, I guess you could say, well, it's not really stumble, they're in Macanu for a fireworks festival one night with their friends, and the fireworks doesn't happen. Starts raining, different music starts to play, and then they notice that there's a little girl in a white dress sitting on the balcony with them. This girl's name is Zephy, and she wants to find her mother, Aura. So that's pretty much the story. Like, a really blitz through version of the story. I highly recommend actually checking out the entire story yourself. It is pretty good. Now for Sword Art Online, there's at least 5 different story arcs for Sword Art Online. And what I mean by different story arcs, I mean they don't contribute to the overall story like the Hack did. Like each individual story contributed further. With Sword Art Online, you had the first version, or actually the first story arc, which took place in Aincrad, and that was the death game. That was the part of it that people thought, oh, these people are gonna die. Like anyone that died in the game died in their real life counterpart, and that was until the all-powerful Kirito, defeated everyone, or defeated the final boss, which was another player. And the guy responsible for creating the game Sword Art Online. Yeah, Sword Art Online is an action-driven game. Like the story itself kind of takes place in the backseat. What I mean by that is story does not seem to matter as much as the action and what happens with the characters. I mean, character development also seems to take a back seat to the actual story itself. But what I mean by that is, I'll go over the character development thing. It's just crazy weird. So in the first story, it's Kirito and his allies and how they have to save everyone from dying in the game. In the second story arc, it's Kirito and some new allies trying to save his girlfriend Asuna from a crazy pervert guy that seems to think that marrying her while she's unconscious is cool. Then it moves on to Gun Gale, which actually I thought was a pretty good story, even if it kind of lost track of where it was going. Gun Gale Online was like a shooter game, and there was actually somebody that was that had figured out how to actually kill people in the real world. And I'm not going to really spoil it if you haven't seen Sword Art Online Season 2. Then from there it moves on to back to Elfheim Online, which was the second story arc where it was Kirito trying to save Asuna, and he brought a new friend from Gun Gale to Alfheim. The thing I liked about that story arc is they actually used a story that was from Norse mythology where Thor had lost his hammer and it was stolen from him, and he had to dress up as Freya to get his hammer back. So that they did take a lot of liberties with that one, but it still was fairly close to it, and I thought that was pretty cool. After that, it went on to one of the ones where it was the strongest character in Alfheim, and the leader of the Sleeping Knights, and how Asuna was interacting with that character and trying to figure out how to be themselves. So that's pretty much the stories for both those kind of series. Like I said, I tried not to really spoil very much or anything. I hope I didn't spoil anything. I can just see comments below now. But in terms of like the characters now, Dot Hack had so many characters. Oh my god. And just the novels themselves, like the first novel, AI Busters, you had Alberio, you had Hokuto, you had Lycoris, Balmong, and Orca before they were known as the Balmong of the Azure Sky and Orca of the Azure Sea. This was before they had defeated the One Sin and gotten those titles. Then in Dot Hack Sign, you had Tsukasa, Bear, Mimiru, BT, Sora, so on and so forth, like Krim and Subaru and all them. Then in the games, you had a veritable crazy list of characters like Kite, Black Rose. Again, you had Balmong. Again, you had Orca. You had the System Administrator, Leos. You had Helba. You had Elk. You had Mia. Like it just kept going on and on. With Legend of the Twilight, you had Sanjuro like showing up again. You had Wiseman from the games again showing up. You had Balmong again showing up. You had Kite and Orca show up as kind of like a small cameo. You also had Shugo. You had Reina as the main characters. You had Oka, which is a werewolf character. You had Mistral and her daughter Muriel. You had so many other characters that were just a part of it. And like another character that reoccurred from Dot Hack Sign, never really actually had a name, but it was satisfying to see them get the ever-loving crap beaten out of them for, the abuse of a grunty. So screw you for abusing grunties. But for Sword Art Online, the main characters stayed the main characters throughout the entire thing. They weren't going to die. You had Kirito, you had Asuna, as like the two major characters throughout the entire series, but you also had the smaller characters whose names now escape me. I should have written it down. I know. I'm sorry. But in terms of character development, when it comes to character development, I will just probably use the Dot Hack main characters of Tsukasa and Kite and Black Rose and Alberio and like all of them. So start in order, I'm going to go with Alberio, and his character development went from being one of AIs are nothing but garbage to there might be something to AIs, there might be a reason for them to exist, and maybe it's not hackers actually putting them into the game. So maybe the file he knows about is the reason why that the AIs are existing now and becoming more and more advanced. When it came to Tsukasa went from being a shut-in that didn't want any contact with other people, didn't want to talk to anyone, and would like often run away from people, which was displayed with Mimiru, and Mimiru was trying to say how impressed she was with the fact that a Wave Master was able to be in that area's lowest dungeon in the God Statue Room all by themselves. When Mimiru was like talking to Tsukasa gated out. That was something that was normal for Tsukasa to do. By the end of the series, Tsukasa had enough confidence in themselves that they were even able to stand up to their abusive father and take on Bear for Bear's opportunity of becoming their guardian and putting them into a school that would challenge them academically. So you went from having a character that didn't want anything to do with other people, that was afraid of interacting with other people, to a character that was more open to being able to talk to other people, being to accept other people, and be around other people. So that's one of the major things that was a huge change in Tsukasa, and you see that throughout the series. And when it came for Kite and Black Rose, most of Black Rose's character development you can read in the novels Another Birth, and quite frankly, they are a good story. I highly recommend you check these books out, because they do follow what happened in the games, but they are from Black Rose's perspective, both in the game and in the offline world, and you learn a lot about her as a character in those books. For Kite, you see that he goes through these kind of like swings where he's confident, but then he goes to the opposite where he's not sure about what he's doing anymore, and Black Rose is the one that's there to help him overcome and push him along, just as he's there for her to push her along. One of the things I'd like to mention between the book and the games is the very beginning, the very first meeting between Kite and Black Rose. It's kind of funny, because when you play the games, which is Kite's perspective, she's the one scolding him about being rude for staring. But in the games, she says it was him that was being rude at her for staring. Or not rude, scolding her for, staring at him. So, it's kind of one of those things like, which one is true? But other than that, it kind of follows the story pretty faithfully, and you learn more about the characters. I mean, from the beginning, Kite goes from being this know-nothing of the game character to pretty much super badass, one of the three swords of Aura kind of character. So that I think is pretty cool. If you hear my dogs, they're upset because they stuck in kitchen right now. In terms of Legend of the Twilight with Shugo and Reina, it was more of a comical type of story, but there was some character development because Shugo had wanted to be a hero, at least in his sister's eyes, and by the end of the series, he had actually became the hero that he wanted to be. For the Sword Art Online characters, as I said, there's a lot of them. Most of them don't have any character development whatsoever. In fact, none of them do. Unless the story dictated it. What I mean by that is, take Asuna, for example, in the last story arc. She went from being a character that was kind of confident from the Aincrad one to a character that didn't know what the hell they were going to be doing with themselves, that was trying to be confident but couldn't be confident, and then met somebody who was literally dying and then to regain confidence again. That story arc was pretty much driven by the fact that they just took what made Asuna, threw that away, and then created something else completely. With Kirito, he never changed. Literally, from the very first moment that you meet him to the last episode in the second season, nothing changed. Literally. And that's a problem, because that was also one of the downfalls I could see with Bleach, with their main character of Ichigo. And mind you, I love Bleach. I think that's a great show. I thought the books were also great. But after a while, having no character development kind of makes things stale. And that's what I'm worried about with Sword Art Online, is that it is just stale and repetitive. So, since there wasn't really any natural character development, I'm just going to kind of drop there and move on to my last category of which one I would like to play. Honestly, I would like to play, Dot Hacks the World more, because if you were able to take the world and the world R2 and combine those, the components between those two, that would make for an awesome game. A game that is not driven by a story that's on rails, but allows you to make up your own story allows you to be what you want to be. If you wanted to be, say, like an information broker on things like events or anything like that, you could be an information broker. Wiseman was an information broker that people went to get information from. If you wanted to be a rare item hunter, you could be that, like Mistral and Muriel, who went around collecting rare items from events or from dungeons or whatnot. Given the fact that the game has a 3-keyword system that allows you to warp to different fields, that would allow for a veritable infinite number of well, not keywords, but infinite number of worlds on the individual servers. And what I mean by individual servers, I mean, you start off in the Delta server, which is the Mac Anu server. And from Mac Anu, you move on to Dunloriog, which is the, I guess, Omega server or something like that. I forget right now. But from Dunloriog, then you level up to a certain point where you can move on to the Theta server, which is Carmina Gallica. And through their Chaos Gate, you can level up before you move on to the next root town, which is in the next server. And you can actually travel back and forth between all these different servers through the Chaos Gate, and each server will have like the same keywords, but it will bring you to a different location with its own challenges, its own kinds of things that you can encounter there. In terms of like the PvP aspect of that game, I liked what they did with like with GU, where they had like this kind of like cordoned off area where other players could enter if they wanted to and like help out or screw up or whatever, die. But I liked how they how the entire thing was handled as a fake MMO, and I would have really liked to have seen it as an actual MMO. Now I know that Fragment had come out as an actual MMO in only Japan, but it wasn't a full-on game. What I mean by that is, it was a game that was more or less created and dictated by the players. Like the fields and everything were like made through a kind of like a dev kit that was given to the players that were able to play around, make their own fields and things like that. I would like to actually have seen I'd actually like to see official released like fields, officially released dungeons, things like that. I mean, yeah, the game could be in continuous development. I don't expect a game to have like an infinite number of fields to be generated to be spot on perfect all the time. But I would have liked to have seen it, released for like a PC, PlayStation, probably Xbox thing, something that could handle like large scale things. Since PS4 is out and it's going to be going into a modular system, I highly think it would work out now because they had released Fragment for the PS2 at the end of its life cycle. That contributed to its overall downfall, really, because like the first .hack games came out near the end of its life cycle. I think the GU games started coming out when the PS3 was already out, so having Fragment come out when a higher end console was out for a lower end console, that kind of like throws things off. So I would really like to see a full-on version, and I would like to actually see it for the VR systems that are coming out, because in the .hack series, all the characters are wearing like a face-mounted display, which is a VR headset. So I would like to see a VR headset that you can just sit there, it tracks the movements of your head, but allows you to still be able to play the game. That would be awesome, I think, if they were able to make like a hybrid between the first version of the world and the world R2. I mean, you could take some of the mechanics from the R2 world, like the steam bikes that Guildmasters get, and use that for like races, which are actually in R2, and create a new system like a racetrack or something like that, where every now and then see like the company that hosts it, which would be Cyber Connection, which owns the rights to .hack, would be able to host like some kind of event race or whatever for Guildmasters to get some kind of like bragging rights or some kind of trophy that can go into their guild house or their field or whatever that they control. And that would be awesome. In terms of Sword Art Online, I know that they already have a full-on MMORPG in development, and it is by IBM, currently in development in Japan right now. Uh, that I see that one working out fairly well, because of the fact that there is 100 floors and each floor has a single boss that you can defeat. It would work out pretty well, I guess, until people hit the end game, which is the last boss, and finish off the last boss. But what would you do after that, after you've cleared the 100th floor? With the world, you could be anything. You could do pretty much anything and explore anywhere. It is a game of exploration. It is a game of gathering the treasures in the deepest parts of the dungeon, and pretty much just teamwork. I mean, the whole game revolves around working as a team to conquer the highest end dungeons. And hopefully, whoever makes the community for that, or whoever makes that, polices the community pretty well. I have seen MMOs that the community has turned rancid pretty quickly, and it literally is the death knell of games when a community is just god awful. Well, I hope you like this episode. I really do, because I don't know what to do after. So, leave in the comment section below if you want to see more episodes like this, and what you would like to see them between. Also, I am kind of trying to work on, well, not really kind of, I've been mulling it over as to how I was going to do it, but I'm trying to do a lore version, for the lore kind of thing for .hack, because there is a ton of lore for .hack, and honestly, I'd love to be able to do something like that. It's just framing it up and getting it going. Because where to start is the hard part, honestly. Like, seriously, it is. So, take care. Bye.